You would go to war with the Council for us? For a spee. The fleet that emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Council space was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 200 warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced alloys developed from architect technology. At their center floated a massive diplomatic vessel, the Unity, large enough to carry delegations from all 14 coalition species. Council sensor stations detected them immediately. Alarms blared across Station Concordia. Ships that had been docked for maintenance scrambled to launch. Defense platforms powered up weapon systems. And in the council chamber, Speaker Velthar received the impossible news with growing horror. How many ships? He demanded. 200 confirmed, Speaker. All of advanced design. Energy signatures match human technology, but far beyond what we encountered 8 years ago. And they are just sitting there? They have made no aggressive moves. They are broadcasting a message on all frequencies. It is addressed to all species in the galaxy, not just the Council. Velthar felt something he had not experienced in his 3 decades of leadership. Genuine fear. Play the message. The holographic display activated, showing a human woman in her 50s, her gray hair pulled back, her expression calm and confident. Ambassador Jiwan Park, the same human he had expelled all those years ago. Greetings to all civilized species of the galaxy, Jiwan began. I am Ambassador Jiwan Park, speaking on behalf of the Terra Coalition. 8 years ago, humanity was expelled from the Galactic Council. You called us aggressive. You called us dangerous. You isolated us and expected us to fail. She paused, and her slight smile carried the weight of victory. We did not fail. Instead, we built something new. The Terra Coalition is a voluntary association of 15 species dedicated to mutual prosperity, fair governance, and the principle that all sapient beings deserve respect and dignity. We control 147 star systems. Our economy rivals that of the Council. Our technology exceeds it, and our military is capable of defending our interests against any threat. The message switched to show footage of coalition worlds. Humans working alongside Velsorians in agricultural centers. Trill scientists collaborating with human researchers in advanced laboratories. Mixed species crews operating ships, building stations, exploring new worlds. It showed a government where all species had equal representation, where decisions were made by consensus rather than domination. Jiwan's face returned to the screen. We come today not to threaten, but to offer an alternative. The Galactic Council has ruled for 3,000 years, but its rule has been marked by corruption, exploitation, and the systematic oppression of smaller species. We offer something different. We offer partnership. We offer freedom. We offer a future where all species prosper together. She leaned forward slightly, her voice hardening. This message is broadcast to every inhabited world in Council space. Every species now knows there is a choice. Join us voluntarily. Reform the Council to match our standards or continue as you are. But understand this. The Terra Coalition will no longer hide. We will no longer submit to unjust authority, and we will defend any species that chooses to stand with us. The message ended. Across Council space on hundreds of worlds, billions of beings had just learned that humanity not only survived expulsion, but had thrived. More than that, they had learned there was an alternative to Council rule. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Council's authority. On the Trill homeworld, the government that had secretly joined the coalition 3 years earlier finally went public. We have been members of the Terra Coalition for some time, their prime speaker announced. We chose not to announce this because we feared Council retaliation. But we will hide no longer. The coalition offers us what the Council never did: respect, fair treatment, and genuine partnership. The Kef followed hours later with their own announcement. Then the Merrill. Then species that had not even joined the coalition but were inspired by its existence began demanding reforms from the Council. In the Council chamber, chaos reigned. Representatives shouted over each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others called for negotiation. A few, quietly, whispered about joining the coalition themselves. High Arbiter Kuvan tried to restore order. This is an act of war. The humans have violated our sovereignty, stolen our client species, and now threaten our very existence. They threaten your power, came a voice from the Draneth delegation. That is not the same thing. Perhaps we should listen to what they are offering. Treason, Kuvin's crystalline body flashed with anger. The council does not negotiate with criminals. But Speaker Velthar was looking at the tactical displays that showed coalition ships holding position at the border. 200 ships. Maybe he could defeat them if he committed the entire council fleet. But it would be costly and there was no guarantee of victory. And even if he won, what would stop the coalition from rebuilding? They had done it once already. We will respond, Velthar announced, but not with immediate force. Ambassador J. Wan of the Terra Coalition has requested a hearing before this body. I propose we grant it. You cannot seriously consider allowing humans back into this chamber. Kuvan protested. I consider allowing them to speak, and then we will decide how to respond. Ambassador J. Wan was a young man, barely 40, chosen specifically because he represented humanity's future rather than its past. He entered the council chamber flanked by representatives from the Trill, Kef, and Merrill. A visible demonstration of the coalition's multi-species nature. Honorable representatives, Jay began without preamble, I will be direct. The Terra Coalition now commands resources and territory that rival the Council. We have technological advantages in multiple fields. We have growing support among species both inside and outside Council space. You cannot ignore us and you cannot easily defeat us. Is that a threat? Kuveen demanded. It is a fact. But here is another fact. We do not want war. War benefits no one. It destroys resources, kills millions, and sets back progress by generations. What we want is reform. Reform? Velthar asked carefully. The council was founded with noble principles, Jay continued. But over centuries, those principles have been corrupted. Smaller species are exploited. Justice is bought and sold. The powerful dictate terms to the weak. This must end. He activated a holographic display showing documented evidence of council corruption. Bribes, embezzlement, forced labor, species enslaved in all but name. Salmon's intelligence network had gathered it all. And now Jay displayed it for everyone to see. We have shared this information with all your member species, Jay said as representatives watched their dirty secrets exposed. They now know what their leadership has been doing. Many are demanding change. The question is whether you will give it to them peacefully or force them to seek it elsewhere. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some representatives denied the evidence. Others admitted to it and claimed it was necessary for order. A few looked genuinely shocked, apparently unaware of the extent of the corruption. While the council descended into chaos, events outside were moving rapidly. A species called the Kiara, who had suffered particularly brutal exploitation under council rule, declared independence. Their leader, also named Kiara in the tradition of her people, announced that the Terra Coalition had pledged military support if the council attempted to reclaim them by force. 5 more species followed within days, then 12, then 23. Admiral Sora positioned coalition fleets at strategic points around the newly independent systems. The council can try to take them back, she told President Hyun during a secured communication. But they would have to go through us first. Will they try? Some of the hardliners want to. Garven is pushing for a military response, but Velthar is hesitating. I think he is smart enough to realize this is not a fight they can win without unacceptable losses. She was right. In the council chamber, Velthar called for a vote on military action. It failed to achieve the necessary majority. Too many species were unwilling to commit to a war whose outcome was uncertain and whose cause was increasingly seen as unjust. Instead, the council did something it had not done in 3,000 years. It fractured. 23 species formally withdrew their membership, most joining the Terra Coalition immediately. Another 40 remained as members but demanded substantial reforms. Only the core founding species and their closest allies maintained full support for the old system. President Hyun watched the developments from Earth, reviewing reports with his senior staff. We have accomplished in months what I thought might take decades, he said. The council is collapsing not because we destroyed it, but because we showed their member species something better. What happens now? Jiwan asked. She had returned to Earth after the dramatic council hearing, exhausted but satisfied. Now we offer them a way forward. Not surrender, but transformation. Hyun prepared a formal offer to the council. The Terra Coalition would merge with the remaining council species to form a new government, the Galactic Assembly. All species would have equal representation. All decisions would require majority consent. Exploitation would be banned. Justice would be transparent and fair. Former council leaders. The refugee ship appeared at the edge of Nexus Station's sensor range without warning. Its hull scarred by weapons fire and its engines barely functional. Station security went on alert immediately, but Governor Xiong Quan ordered them to hold fire. "Identify yourself," Xiong transmitted on all standard frequencies. The response came in broken galactic common, the voice weak and frightened. "This is the vessel Freedom's Hope. We are Velsorian refugees. 43 souls aboard. Requesting asylum, please. We have nowhere else to go." Xiong authorized an emergency docking and medical teams. When the airlock opened, what stumbled out shocked even veterans who had seen many alien species. The Velsorians were tall, thin beings with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They moved slowly, clearly exhausted and injured. Several were supporting others who could barely walk. A female Velsorian who introduced herself as Kiran seemed to be their leader. She collapsed as soon as she saw the medical team, tears streaming down her face. "You came. You actually came. We thought we would die out there. You are safe now," Xiong assured her. "Medical team, get them to the clinic immediately. Full treatment, no cost." Later, after the refugees had been stabilized, Kiran told their story. "The council controls our homeworld. They came generations ago, promising protection and prosperity. Instead, they took everything. Our resources, our technology, even our children to serve in their programs. When we protested, they called us ungrateful. When we organized, they called us criminals. How did you escape? We stole a ship. 43 of us. There were supposed to be more, but council security discovered our plan. We barely got away." Kiran looked at Xiong with desperate hope. "We heard rumors about humans, that you treat other species fairly, that you do not exploit or enslave. Is it true?" "It is true," Xiong said simply, "and you are welcome to stay as long as you want. We can offer you work, education, protection. All we ask in return is that you contribute to the community. Fair work for fair pay." Kiran started crying again. "I did not think places like this existed anymore." News of the Velsorian refugees spread quickly through the underground networks that connected dissatisfied species across the galaxy. More refugees began arriving at Nexus Station and other human outposts. First in small groups, then in larger numbers. Kef, Trill, Solarians, species that had never even heard of Earth 5 years ago. Ambassador Jiwan Park, who had returned to active service after the expulsion, took charge of refugee operations. She had aged in the past years, her hair now completely gray, but her sharp mind and diplomatic skills remained unmatched. "Every refugee is an opportunity," Jiwan explained to her staff. "They bring knowledge of council operations, insight into species we have never dealt with, and most importantly, they prove that there is an alternative to council rule. We need to treat them well, not just because it is right, but because they will tell others what they find here." The refugee crisis did not go unnoticed by the council. High Arbiter Kuvan, speaking before the full council assembly, denounced humanity's harboring of criminals and fugitives. "The humans are deliberately destabilizing our member systems," he declared. "They offer false promises to lure away citizens of council species. This cannot be tolerated." Council Speaker Velthar, who had expelled humanity 8 years earlier, agreed to send a military force to investigate. "We will discover where the humans are hiding these fugitives, and we will remind them that council law applies to all who live within council space." The commander of that force was Drathkar, a reptilian warrior from the Threshian species. He was old by his kind standards, with scales that had darkened to almost black with age, but his tactical mind remained sharp. The council gave him 12 ships and orders to locate human operations outside the exclusion zone. It took Drathkar 3 months of searching, but he finally found what he was looking for. His fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of a system that council records listed as uninhabited. Instead, they found a thriving human colony, 3 orbital stations and at least 20 ships moving between them. "This is Council Enforcer Drathkar to the human vessels," he transmitted. "You are in violation of galactic settlement laws. Power down your ships and prepare to be boarded." The response came from a human destroyer that had been on patrol. Captain Insu Park, no relation to Ambassador Jiwan, commanded the vessel. "Enforcer Drathkar, you are in territory controlled by the Terra Coalition. We recognize no council authority here. I suggest you turn around. You dare threaten a council enforcement fleet? I am not threatening. I am informing. You have entered our space without permission. Leave peacefully or be escorted out. Drathkar had faced down pirates, rebels, and rogue military forces across 40 years of service. He had never met anyone who spoke to council authority with such casual dismissal. His pride would not allow retreat without at least testing this human's resolve. All ships attack formation, he ordered. Target their weapons and engines. Disable but do not destroy. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The human destroyer, outnumbered 12-1, did not retreat. Instead, it accelerated directly toward Drathkar's flagship. Council ships fired, their energy weapons lancing out in coordinated patterns that should have overwhelmed the human shields. The human ship simply was not there when the shots arrived. What? Drathkar stared at his tactical display in confusion. The human destroyer had moved impossibly fast, its new position appearing on sensors only after it had already arrived. Return fire from the human ship hit 3 of his frigates simultaneously. Precisely targeted shots that overwhelmed their shields and disabled their weapon systems without destroying the ships themselves. All ships, evasive, Drathkar ordered. But his fleet was designed for overwhelming less advanced opponents, not dogfighting with something faster and more maneuverable. The battle lasted 4 minutes. In that time, the single human destroyer disabled 3 frigates, forced 2 cruisers to retreat with damaged engines, and positioned itself directly behind Drathkar's flagship with weapons locked. Enforcer Drathkar. Captain Insu's voice came over the channel, calm and professional. I have shown you that your ships cannot match ours. I could destroy your flagship right now, but I will not. Take your damaged vessels and leave. Tell the council what you found here. Tell them the humans are not the weak species they expelled 8 years ago. Drathkar's pride warred with his survival instinct. Finally, he gave the order to retreat. As his ships limped away, he reviewed the tactical recordings of the battle. The human ship had moved like nothing he had ever seen. Its weapons were more accurate than council military-grade systems. Its shields had shrugged off attacks that should have crippled it. When had the humans developed such technology? How had the council not noticed? Back at council headquarters on Station Concordia, Drathkar reported his findings. The humans have achieved significant technological advancement, he told the assembled council members. Their ships are superior to ours in speed, maneuverability, and weapons accuracy. And they control far more territory than we believed. I estimate at least 70 star systems, possibly more. Speaker Velthar dismissed his concerns. Impossible. We monitor all human communications. We track their ship movements. They cannot hide 70 systems from us. With respect, Speaker, they already have. I saw them. I fought them. We lost. High Arbiter Kuvan leaned forward, his crystalline body refracting light sharply. You lost because you faced a single ship with an inexperienced crew. A full council battle fleet would crush them. Drathkar wanted to argue to make them understand the danger, but he could see their minds were already closed. The council had convinced themselves humanity was weak and would remain weak. Evidence to the contrary was simply dismissed. He was not the only one gathering intelligence. Intelligence Director Somin Han had spent years building a network of operatives inside council space. Now she was using them to manipulate what the council saw and heard. We need them to keep looking in the wrong places, Somin explained to Director Hyun. I have operatives feeding false information about human activities near the exclusion zone. Small raids, minor conflicts, just enough to keep their attention focused on our old territory, while we expand everywhere else. Is it working? Perfectly. The council thinks we are a regional annoyance. They have no idea we are building something that will surpass them. But some council species were noticing. The Trill, a small mammalian species that had suffered under council exploitation for centuries, sent a secret delegation to Nexus Station. Their representative, a young diplomat, met with Ambassador Jiwon in a private room. My government wants to know if the rumors are true, the Trill diplomat said, that humans offer genuine partnership, that you do not exploit or dominate. The rumors are true, Jiwon confirmed. The Terra Coalition is founded on voluntary membership and mutual benefit. Every species has equal voice, equal rights. The council would never allow us to leave. They would blockade our homeworld, cut off all trade, perhaps even attack us directly. Then we would protect you. Jiwon said simply. If you join the coalition, you are under our protection, all of it. Military, economic, political. The Trill diplomat was quiet for a long moment. And tell them that anyone who wants to stand with us against the Council's tyranny will find humanity standing with them. As the first-year fleet commander Junho Bayek stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pathfinder, staring at a star map that showed absolutely nothing of interest. That was exactly what made it perfect. These are the regions the Council calls the empty reaches, he explained to his crew of 50 scientists, engineers, and support staff. They surveyed this area 2,000 years ago, found nothing worth claiming, and never came back. No strategic resources, no habitable worlds, no convenient jump points to anywhere important. His second officer, a young woman named Borum, raised an eyebrow. So why are we here? Because the Council thinks there is nothing here, Junho said with a slight smile. Which means they will not be looking here. And because their survey was done 2,000 years ago with technology that was already ancient, I'm betting they missed something. He was right. 3 weeks into their survey, the Pathfinder's sensors detected unusual readings from a planet orbiting a dim red star. The world itself was unremarkable, a rocky ball with a thin atmosphere and no obvious resources. But Dr. Hana Song, the expedition's chief archaeologist, insisted they investigate. Hana was a woman in her 30s who had spent most of her career studying alien ruins. She had a gift for seeing patterns that others missed. As the shuttle descended toward the planet's surface, she kept checking her instruments with growing excitement. There, she pointed to a formation on the main screen. Those are not natural structures. What appeared from orbit to be a mountain range revealed itself as something entirely different at ground level. Massive towers of a dark metallic substance rose from the planet's surface, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Some of the towers were broken, toppled by time and weather, but many still stood intact. How old? Junho asked as they walked through the ruins. Best guess? 50,000 years. Maybe older. Hana ran her hand along one of the towers and her instruments lit up with data. The material is not anything in our database. It is not metal, not stone, not organic. Something else entirely. They established a base camp and began systematic exploration. The ruins covered an area the size of a small city, with structures both above and below ground. In the underground sections, protected from the elements, they found something extraordinary. Woo-Sung Lim was the team's cryptographer and data analyst. He was a quiet man who preferred computers to people, but his skills were unmatched. When Hana showed him the markings they had found in the underground chambers, his eyes went wide. "This is writing," he said immediately. "Not just decoration. Actual written language here. Can you read it?" "Not yet, but I can analyze it." Woo-Sung set up his equipment in one of the larger chambers, surrounded by walls covered in flowing script. Every language has patterns, repeated structures, syntax rules. Give me time. Time was something they had plenty of. While Woo-Sung worked on the language, the rest of the team explored the ruins. They found evidence of a civilization far more advanced than anything currently in the galaxy. Technology that could manipulate gravity as easily as humans flipped a light switch. Energy systems that drew power from quantum fluctuations. And most intriguing of all, hints of dimensional manipulation beyond anything humanity had dreamed of. 3 months into the project, Woo-Sung made his breakthrough. "I have got it," he announced one morning, his eyes red from lack of sleep. Or at least enough of it to start reading. The team gathered around as he displayed his translation of one of the chamber's central texts. They called themselves the Architects. This was not their homeworld, just one of thousands of research stations scattered across the galaxy. They were studying something they called the substrate. "What is the substrate?" Hana asked. "Near as I can translate, it is the underlying structure of reality itself, the foundation that space-time sits on. They learned to manipulate it directly, which is how they achieved faster-than-light travel without using anywhere near the energy we do." Junho felt his heart rate increase. "Is the technology still here?" "Some of it. Most of the equipment has degraded beyond recovery, but the data..." Woo-Sung gestured at the walls around them. "All of this is a database. Technical specifications, theoretical frameworks, experimental results. 50,000 years of research preserved in a material that does not decay. How long to copy it all? Months, maybe a year, and then decades to understand it." Wusong looked at Junho seriously. Commander, this changes everything. If we can replicate even a fraction of what the architects achieved, humanity will leap ahead by thousands of years. News of the discovery, which they named Threshold Prime, reached Earth by encrypted transmission. Director Hyun immediately authorized a massive expansion of the research effort. More scientists arrived, more equipment, more ships to guard the system from potential discovery. But Junho had other work to do. Threshold Prime was just one system in the empty reaches. If the Council had missed something this significant, what else had they overlooked? Over the next 3 years, Junho's exploration fleets fanned out across regions the Council had dismissed as worthless. They found dozens of systems with exploitable resources, from rare elements to habitable worlds that simply needed the right approach to colonization. They found 3 more architect sites, each adding to humanity's growing database of precursor knowledge. And they found something else. Space the Council did not control, did not monitor, and did not care about. Perfect for expansion. Governor Seung Kwon was a practical man who had spent 20 years managing Earth's agricultural programs before volunteering for colonial service. When Junho offered him a barely habitable rock in what the Council called the frontier wastes, Seung saw opportunity. It has water and atmosphere, and plants will grow there if we help them along, Seung said, reviewing the planetary data. That is more than Mars had when we started. Give me 5,000 colonists in 10 years, I will make it a garden. He was as good as his word. The colony, named New Start, grew rapidly, but Seung had bigger ambitions than simple farming. He convinced Hyun to let him build something unprecedented, a neutral trading station open to anyone, regardless of Council affiliation. Nexus Station took 3 years to build. When it opened, it was unlike anything else in the galaxy. A massive rotating ring habitat with docking ports for 500 ships, market districts where traders from any species could do business, and most importantly, security provided by human ships that enforced only one law: no violence in neutral space. The first visitors were independent traders, species too small or poor to interest the Council. They came warily, expecting tricks or traps, and found instead fair prices, honest dealing, and humans who treated them with respect. Word spread. Within 6 months, Nexus Station was handling more trade than many Council-sanctioned ports. Species that the Council had ignored or exploited found they could get better deals from humans. More than that, they found humans would trade with them as equals, not as servants. We are taking business away from the Council, Shung reported during one of his regular calls to Earth. Their merchants are complaining. Some of the Council species are demanding we be shut down. And? Hyun asked. And we are too far from Council territory for them to do anything about it without a major military expedition. Plus, we now have 17 species that depend on Nexus Station for critical supplies. If the Council attacks us, they attack all of them too. It was exactly the outcome Hyun had hoped for. Human expansion was not just about claiming territory. It was about building networks, creating dependencies, making humanity too useful to destroy. While Nexus Station handled trade, Captain Nario was handling intelligence. She commanded a squadron of stealth ships equipped with the most advanced sensors humanity could build. Her job was simple: map Council space and find its weaknesses. Nari was a small woman with a talent for remaining unnoticed. Her ships, coated in experimental materials that absorbed scanner beams, could slip through Council space like ghosts. Over 2 years, she and her crews mapped military installations, trade routes, communication networks, and political boundaries. What they found was both encouraging and disturbing. The Council is corrupt from top to bottom, Nari reported from her flagship, the Shadow. We have documented evidence of Council representatives taking bribes, exploiting client species, and embezzling funds. Some of the founding species are running what amount to protection rackets on smaller members. Are the client species aware? Hyun asked. Some are. Some are not. But all of them are unhappy. The Council promises protection and prosperity, but most species never see either. They pay taxes, provide resources, send their best people to serve in Council positions, and get almost nothing in return. Could any of them be convinced to leave? Nari smiled coldly. Give me the word and I can start a revolution. Not yet. But keep gathering evidence. When the time comes, we will need it. By the 5th year after the expulsion, humanity controlled 89 star systems. None of them appeared on any Council map as human territory. On paper, Earth still only claimed its original 12 systems within the exclusion zone. In reality, human colonies, research stations, trading posts, and military. The blockade started 3 days after the expulsion. Council warships positioned themselves at every major jump point leading into human territory, inspecting every vessel, turning away any ship carrying supplies marked for Earth or her colonies. Trade agreements that had taken years to negotiate were torn up overnight. Technology licenses were revoked. Even humanitarian shipments of medicine were blocked under claims of security concerns. Director Hyun Kim stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva, watching the tactical displays that showed Council forces tightening their noose. The room buzzed with activity as analysts tracked ship movements, economists calculated supply shortages, and military officers planned defensive positions. How bad is it? Hyun asked Admiral Sora Lee, who had just returned from inspecting the Seoul Defense Fleet. Sora was a compact woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for aggressive tactics. She pulled up a data screen showing dozens of red indicators. 37 human colonies are outside the exclusion zone. 15 have already reported raids by what they call pirates, but we have identified Council military markers on the attacking ships. They are using mercenaries to harass our outlying settlements. Casualties? 12 dead at New Busan Colony, 23 wounded. They hit the water treatment facility and stole 3 months of supplies. Sora's jaw tightened. The colonists fought back with mining equipment and personal weapons. Killed 4 of the raiders before they retreated. Hyun closed his eyes briefly. 12 lives. 12 families who had trusted Earth to protect them, to lead them to a better future among the stars. What do we need to defend them? More ships, Sora said bluntly. Better weapons. The Council has had 3,000 years to develop their technology. We have had barely 40 years in space. Their ships are faster, their shields stronger, their weapons more precise. Then we need to change that equation. A young man in a technician's uniform approached hesitantly. Taeyang Shin was barely 30, a prodigy who had designed humanity's first practical fusion reactors at age 22. Now he worked in the Experimental Propulsion Division. Director Kim? I think I might have something. Hyun turned to him. Go ahead. Taeyang activated a holographic display showing a captured Council scout ship. When the mercenaries attacked New Busan, Admiral Sora's people managed to disable and capture one of their vessels. We have been studying its systems for the past 18 hours. And their faster-than-light drive uses a different principle than ours. We fold space using massive energy expenditure, which is why our jumps are slow and limited in range. They use what I can only describe as riding existing ripples in space-time. It is more elegant, more efficient. Can we copy it? Taeyang grinned. Better. I can improve it. Their system is thousands of years old. It works, but it is built on outdated assumptions. If I combine their ripple-riding principle with our brute force energy systems, I think we can create something faster than both. Hyun felt the first spark of hope since the expulsion. How long? 6 months for a prototype. Maybe a year for production models. You have 4 months and unlimited resources. What else do you need? A team and access to the Martian industrial complexes. That brought Hyun to his next meeting. Dainryu ran Mars like a personal kingdom, overseeing the vast mining operations and shipyards that had turned the Red Planet into humanity's industrial heartland. The man appeared on the video screen, his face smudged with grease despite his expensive suit. I heard about New Busan, Dain said without preamble. Those Council bastards think they can starve us out? That appears to be their plan, Hyun confirmed. I need your shipyards, Dain. I need you to convert from commercial production to military production. I need ships, weapons, armor. I need them fast, and I need them in quantity. Dain was quiet for a moment, and Hyun could see the calculations running behind his eyes. The man was a businessman first, but he was also human. You are talking about a complete industrial pivot. Thousands of jobs changing overnight. Supply chains rebuilt. Contracts broken. I am talking about survival. Yeah. Dain nodded slowly. Yeah, I know. Here is what I can do. Mars has 17 major shipyards and maybe 40 smaller facilities. I can have 12 of the major yards converted to military production within 2 months. The smaller yards can start producing components immediately, but I need something from you. Name it. Asteroid mining rights, unrestricted. My people need raw materials, and the Council blockade means we cannot import anything. I need to strip every rock in the belt if necessary. Done. Send me the paperwork. As Dane's image faded, Yoonji-nam approached Hyun's desk. She moved like a ghost, quiet and careful, which fit her role as head of diplomatic intelligence. Where others saw the expulsion as disaster, Yoonji saw opportunity. Director, I have been monitoring internal council communications, she said softly. The encryption was easier to crack than expected. I think they have become complacent. What did you find? Dissent, lots of it. At least 14 species voted to expel us, not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid to oppose the council leadership. 6 more abstained for the same reason. And there are 3 species that are actively unhappy with the council, but have no way to leave without facing retaliation. Hyun leaned forward. Names? The Velsorians, the Kef, and the Trill. All of them are smaller species that the council treats as servants rather than equals. Sound familiar? It did. That had been Earth's position before the expulsion. What do they need? Protection. A viable alternative. Proof that leaving the council does not mean destruction. Yoonji smiled thinly. They need us to succeed. Then we had better not disappoint them. 4 months later, Taeyang's prototype was ready. They tested it in the outer solar system, far from council sensors. The ship was a converted freight hauler called the Tomorrow, captained by a volunteer crew who understood they might not survive the test. Hyun watched from the control center as the Tomorrow activated its new drive system. The ship did not fold space the way human ships normally did, with a visible distortion and then a sudden disappearance. Instead, it seemed a blur, as if the universe could not quite decide where it was supposed to be. Then it was simply gone. Jump completed, the communications officer announced. The Tomorrow has reached the test coordinates. Distance 37 light-years. Time elapsed 4 minutes. The room erupted in cheers. 4 minutes. The same journey would have taken a council ship 15 minutes and a human ship nearly an hour. Bring them home, Hyun ordered. The Tomorrow reappeared 3 minutes later. On the video screen, the captain was grinning like a madman. Director Kim, I do not know what Taeyang built, but it is incredible. Smooth, fast, and we barely used any fuel. When can we start putting these in every ship? Production starts tomorrow, Hyun said. Welcome back, Captain. You just changed the balance of power in this galaxy. While Taeyang revolutionized human propulsion, Admiral Sora was solving the more immediate problem of colony defense. She took the Sol defense fleet and divided it into rapid response groups, each centered around a frigate equipped with the New Horizon engine. They could not defend every colony simultaneously, but they could respond to attacks within minutes rather than hours. The mercenaries learned this the hard way. When raiders hit the mining colony on Epsilon Station, they expected an easy target. Instead, they found Sora's flagship, the Defiant, dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly above them. The battle was short and brutal. Human ships, now faster and more maneuverable than their opponents, tore through the raider formation in minutes. Sora did not destroy all the raiders. She disabled 3 ships, captured their crews, and sent the rest limping back to council space with a message burned into their hull plating in 6 languages. Try again, and we will not be merciful. The raid stopped. In the command center, Hyun reviewed casualty reports with satisfaction. 0 deaths, 3 injuries, 5 enemy ships captured, providing more technology for Taeyang's teams to study. We are holding, Sora reported. The blockade is still in place, but we have shown that we can defend our colonies. Morale is improving. Good, because it is time for Phase 2. Yoonji had been busy. Her intelligence network, built quietly over 15 years of council membership, had not disappeared with the expulsion. She had contacts on dozens of worlds, informants who owed Earth favors or who simply hated the council more than they feared it. Through these channels, she began spreading information. Technical data on the Horizon engine, agricultural techniques that could transform marginal worlds, medical advances that the council had been keeping restricted to core species. Earth gave away its knowledge freely, asking nothing in return except that people remember where it came from. Director, Yoonji reported 6 months after the expulsion. We are receiving requests for aid from 17 non-council species. They want our technology, our expertise, our protection. What should I tell them? Hyun thought about the choice before them. Earth could hoard its advantages, use them to build a human empire that would rival the council through force. Or they could do something different, something better. Tell them yes, he said. Tell them Earth welcomes friends. Tell them we believe in cooperation, not domination. The grand chamber of Station Concordia floated in the void between stars, a massive structure that housed the most powerful political body in the known galaxy. Inside its main hall, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from the insectoid to the aquatic, from energy beings to silicon-based life. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Jiwon Park, a human woman in her late 40s. Her dark hair pulled back in a simple style, her expression calm despite the chaos erupting around her. Order. The council speaker, a being called Velthar, clicked his mandibles together. His species resembled oversized mantises, and his compound eyes reflected the lights of 1,000 data screens. The vote has been cast. Earth is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Jiwon felt her heart sink, but she kept her face neutral. 15 years. 15 years of diplomacy, of careful negotiations, of proving humanity's worth to these ancient civilizations. All of it had come crashing down in a single afternoon. The charges against Earth were simple: aggressive expansion and resource hoarding. The evidence was laughable. Humanity had claimed 12 uninhabited systems in the past 5 years, systems that no other species wanted. They were far from major trade routes, difficult to reach, and required significant terraforming. But humanity had made them work. They had turned worthless rocks into thriving colonies. That success, Jiwon realized, was the real crime in the eyes of the council. Speaker Velthar, Jiwon said, her voice carrying across the chamber without needing amplification. I must protest this decision. The charges against Earth are identical to actions taken by at least 20 species in this very chamber. The Kuvan claimed 37 systems last year alone. The Drenthic Collective has been hoarding rare elements for decades. Why is Earth being singled out? High Arbiter Kuvan rose from his position, his crystalline body refracting light in sharp angles. The Kuvan have been members of this council for 3,000 years, Ambassador. We have earned our privileges. Humanity has been here for barely a moment. You grow too fast. You want too much. You refuse to accept your place. There it was. The truth beneath all the political language. Humanity's real crime was not following the rules that kept the old powers in control. I see, Jiwon said quietly. Then this was never about law or justice. This is about fear. The chamber erupted in angry chirps, growls, and electronic protests. Velthar slammed his appendage against the podium. You overstep, human. The council has been generous in even allowing your primitive species to sit among us. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. Jiwon looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives who had once called themselves Earth's friends. Most looked away. A few appeared uncomfortable. 3 species had abstained from the vote, but none had voted in humanity's favor. Not one. Captain Minho Kang stood in the observation section above, his military uniform crisp and proper. He was a tall man with sharp features and calculating eyes. As commander of Earth's flagship, the Indomitable, he had escorted the diplomatic delegation to this meeting. His hand rested on the railing, knuckles white with suppressed anger. Beside him stood Dr. Yuna Choi, Earth's chief xenobiologist. She had spent years studying council species, learning their cultures, helping humanity navigate the complex web of galactic politics. Tears ran down her face as she watched everything they had built fall apart. They planned this from the beginning, Yuna whispered. They never intended to let us become equals. Minho nodded grimly. The question is what we do now. Down on the floor, Jiwon gathered her papers with deliberate slowness. She would not run from this chamber. She would not give them the satisfaction. Very well, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. The chamber gradually fell silent, curious despite themselves. Earth accepts the council's decision. We will vacate our embassy within the standard period. We will withdraw our personnel from all joint projects. We will honor the exclusion zone you have established around our territory. Velthar seemed surprised by her compliance. That is satisfactory. However, Jiwon continued, and now her voice carried an edge that made several representatives lean forward. Let me be clear about something. You mistake our ambition for aggression. You see our growth and call it greed. You witness our success and label it theft. But you are wrong. She turned slowly, making sure to meet the gaze of every representative present. Humanity did not come to the stars looking for masters. We came looking for friends, for partners, for fellow travelers in this vast universe. You have rejected that offer. You have chosen to see us as threats rather than allies. That is your choice to make, and we will respect it. Ji-won picked up her case, preparing to leave. But understand this, she said, her final words carrying across the silent chamber. You have not diminished humanity today. You have freed us from the burden of trying to fit into your broken system. What we build next, we will build for ourselves, and you will come to understand the difference between our ambition and your fear. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the massive chamber. No one spoke. No one moved. As Ji-won reached the door, she paused and looked back one final time. I hope for all our sakes that our paths cross again under better circumstances. But whether they do or not, humanity will endure. We always have. The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss. Minho and Yuna met her in the corridor outside. The captain's jaw was tight with controlled fury. Ambassador, the fleet is ready to depart on your order. Give me 1 hour to clear our embassy, Ji-won said. Then we leave this place. What happens now? Yuna asked, wiping her eyes. Ji-won looked at the two people who had stood by Earth through everything. Good people. Brilliant people. And they were not alone. Humanity had millions like them, perhaps billions. People who would not break under pressure. People who would turn obstacles into opportunities. Now, Ji-won smiled, and there was steel in it. Now we go home and get to work. They wanted to keep us small and dependent. Instead, they have given us a reason to become something greater. Minho allowed himself a thin smile. I know some engineers who will be very interested in reverse engineering, that council technology we have been studying. And I know some colonial administrators who have been dying to expand. Past the exclusion zone, Yuna added. If the council does not want us in their space, well, there is a whole galaxy out there they do not control. The three of them walked toward the docking bay where the Indomitable waited. Behind them, the council continued their session, already moving on to other business. They had expelled the humans and considered the matter closed. They would not make that mistake again. News of the expulsion reached Earth 17 hours later, transmitted across the faster-than-light communication network that humanity had barely begun to understand. The reaction was immediate and intense. Protests filled the streets of every major city. Some called for war, others called for isolation. But beneath the chaos, a strange unity began to form. Director Hyun Kim, head of Earth's emergency coalition government, watched the protests from his office in Geneva. He was an older man, his hair gray, his face lined with the weight of leadership. He had guided humanity through the first contact, through the negotiations to join the council, through 15 years of careful diplomacy. Now he would guide them through independence. He activated the global broadcast system, and his face appeared on screens across Earth and every human colony. My fellow humans, he began, and his voice was calm, measured but underlaid with determination. Today, the Galactic Council expelled us from their organization. They called us aggressive. They called us greedy. They established barriers around our territory and cut us off from their networks. He paused, letting the words sink in. They expected us to beg for readmission. They expected us to weaken without their support. They expected us to fail. Another pause, and now Hyun smiled. Let us prove them wrong.